There's been a lot of controversial things throughout the history of Valorant, but undoubtedly one of the most controversial has been in the game since the beginning all the way back in beta and hasn't dramatically changed, and that's the first shot accuracy and the spray control accuracy of Valorant guns. There's a huge amount of first shot inaccuracy with the majority of weapons in Valorant unless you use them under very set conditions, like the Guardian if you're zoomed in while you're crouched, or if you're using an operator as an example. That's why occasionally you'll get moments where a weapon is right on the opponent's head and you will just miss that shot due to the built-in RNG because the bullet is not perfectly accurate. Now that alone would be a big deal, but if you combine it with the spray control inaccuracy that Valorant has, it can create really frustrating situations. And the spray control inaccuracy means that a lot of spread is incredibly random. So as an example, you could shoot a Vandal right on someone's head, your crosshair could be perfectly placed, but because of that first shot inaccuracy, you could whiff that shot some percentage of the time, and then because of the spray control randomization, you could not be able to perfectly control your spray to get it right back on target in time, and you'll die even though your setup was perfect and your crosshair was perfect. Now, this doesn't happen all that often. It actually happens a relatively small percentage of the time, but the reason that it's been so controversial is that it hasn't been the case for the predecessor to Valorant, Counter-Strike, where first shot inaccuracy is very, very low, if non-existent, and spray control is predictable and repetitive up to a certain amount of bullets. Typically, the first 9-ish bullets out of both rifles in Counter-Strike are perfectly controllable, so if you know the spray pattern, you can always control the weapon after the first bullet, which is also very accurate. So if your crosshair is on their head when you fire, then they're dead. And even if it's not, if you know the spray pattern, then you can actually skill your way back into a headshot because you know the set pattern that it can go through, and you can adjust that to get your bullets right on the target, right? So with that as the precedent, a lot of people thought that Valorant would follow a very similar suit, but it added in extra variance and extra RNG or randomness into their guns automatically. And it left a lot of people really confused right off the bat, because why would they do this if this is not the status quo? Why add in this little bit of randomness? And there's a couple of pros and cons I wanted to run through about each one, and then I'm going to talk about my opinion and then pass the question off to you what you think the future of Valorant should hold. So for one, let's talk about the cons of first shot accuracy, because there's reasons why every gun isn't first shot accuracy, and the biggest one is that it defines weapon ranges, right? Adding in variance to a lot of guns means that certain weapons are going to be more effective at longer ranges, and you might be saying, hey, why is the Vandal and the Phantom not perfectly first shot accurate? Well, there are weapons that are more accurate from further ranges. You want perfect first shot accuracy? Get a Guardian and crouch with it while ADSing. Get a Marshal, get an Operator. These weapons are more first shot accurate, so it allows weapons to have certain strengths and certain consistency, but not all strengths, right? That's the idea, is that it's defining weapon ranges. Now, whether or not that applies to the core two rifles, the Phantom and the Vandal, I think is the biggest thing that is up for consideration or controversy, right? Because most people would agree that like a Spectre might not be reasonable to be perfectly accurate, or like a Stinger might not be reasonable to be perfectly accurate, but the two rifles, it might make sense for those to be much more accurate than they are right now, or at least very consistent in both the first shot accuracy and the spray control, but I'll talk more about the pros later on. Now, the other thing is that it technically creates a more tactical game, with Valorant being based on a lot of abilities and wanting to set up very favorable advantages. The idea here is that you set up an advantage that transcends just raw mechanical skill. If the enemy is flashed, if the enemy is being swung by two people, or in cases where the enemy are fighting a fight from someone from behind, or maybe they're fighting against a gun that is just more effective at that range, these are tactical advantages that when there is an additional amount of randomization with the guns built in, you often want to rely more on tactical advantages rather than mechanical ones. If the mechanical ones can't be trusted 100% of the time, then it forces people to set up more tactical ones. And with Valorant trying to play into the idea that everything around abilities and all these complex abilities and things like that mean that the game can be infinitely more tactical with more variables, that's what they're double downing into by taking power away from weapons, because ultimately that's what consistency does. Whether it's spray control accuracy or first shot accuracy, that's adding power to weapons. So it is, in a sense, weakening weapons comparatively to the other aspects of the game. And that leads me to the third con, or the third reason why they won't want first shot accuracy, is that mechanics shouldn't be the end all be all. At least this is an argument that people might make, that even though Valorant is a mechanical game, it's not only a mechanical game. It's not the best aimer wins. It's something that should be more ability centric, strategic centric, tactical centric. So that's the idea behind making it so that there is more built-in RNG around these weapons, and not making it so that every time someone is right on the head and clicking the button, they win every single time. Now let's actually talk about some of the pros though to having a first shot accuracy. And I think one of the biggest pros is that it removes RNG, the randomness. And a lot of people really hate randomness. There's a lot of feel bad moments overall in games, but one of the things that feels extremely bad is exactly this scenario that I painted for you at the beginning of the video, where your crosshair is right on someone, you hit or you try to shoot that person, and because of first shot inaccuracy, you whiff. And then because of spray control inaccuracy, you can't get them perfectly on target and you die to someone that maybe because of first shot inaccuracy, they hit your head even though their crosshair wasn't on your head, right? These are frustrating moments and frustrating times. And I will say in general, if this didn't need to happen, then it shouldn't happen. I think as a general philosophy, frustrating moments, even if they happen rarely, they should be limited about when they happen at all. But on the other end of that token, or the counter argument to that, is that just because something frustrating happens very infrequently doesn't justify a change in the entire system. So one of the things that we always see often is people will say, oh, if I use the Vandal, I always dink people for 140. But how often that actually happens is far less than people think it happens, because you feel the bad moments far more than they actually happen. Like, it can happen really rarely, but because it feels so bad, you have it in the front of your mind at all times. But a bigger pro to this, in my opinion, is not letting people doubt their own play. I think some people will kind of chalk up missing a shot due to first shot inaccuracy, and they will always say, oh, I don't even need to focus on my aim because there is first shot inaccuracy. But if someone could 100% know for a fact that if they missed a shot, it was because they were not either standing still or on their target, I think that's good for trying to improve your mechanical skill and develop, because you can't blame anyone but you. Now, moving on to spray control accuracy, which is the idea that there should be a set amount of predictable sprays past the beginning bullet, but not infinite, right? Even in games like Counter-Strike, it's not like every bullet is perfectly predictable, although you could make an argument that maybe every bullet should be predictable, but it becomes a lot harder to control. So a spray pattern that starts off pretty minor and then gets really sporadic, but if you know it, you know it, and that could increase the skill floor. But I do think that with Valorant trying to be a really approachable game, you ideally wouldn't want to do this too much to the point where you are always going to lose a gunfight against someone that knows. Like, that's one of the big reasons why Valorant has spray inaccuracy, is that the better aimer doesn't always win. They win a dramatic amount of the time, but not always, because of some of this inaccuracy. Whether you think that's a pro or a con, you got to let me know in the comments down below. Now, keep in mind that these ideas don't have to be connected, right? We don't need to have first shot perfect accuracy and spray control perfect accuracy. We could have first shot and inaccuracy and spray control accuracy, or first shot accuracy and spray control inaccuracy. So I think having a spray control inaccuracy in the current system with perfect first shot accuracy would heavily punish you for missing that first shot, right? And vice versa, if you made it so spray controls were predictable and kept the first shot inaccuracy, missing that first shot wouldn't really matter that much, because if you know the spray control, you can still control the bullet onto someone's head. Not that you can't do that now, it would just be something that you could do very consistent, if not 100% of the time. Now, it's clear that Valorant wants to stay away from a pure mechanical game. But the question is, even with first shot accuracy and spray control accuracy, wouldn't the abilities still make Valorant very strategic? And there would be more situations where you would still want tactical engagements around abilities and multiple people. I don't exactly know the answer to that question, but I want to pass it on to you. How do you feel about the first shot and spray control inaccuracy or randomness? Do you think it aids or hinders the development and overall gameplay loop of Valorant? And if you were to come up with the perfect solution, what would you implement, and what are the things that you think your solution does that some other solutions I mentioned here don't do? Let me know in the comments down below, and definitely check out Gosu Academy if you want to level up your skills. We run boot camps with many top players so we can help you level up your gameplay. So check them out in the links down below. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.